Apple Computer was established in 1976 by Ronald Wayne, Steve Wozniak, and Steve Jobs after only the company and sold his 10% stock for $800. If it kept those 10% to this day, it would be worth over $60 billion. A few months after Wayne's departure, Apple released the Apple I. Steve Wozniak developed and designed both the hardware and operating system. In fact, the Apple I was the character displayed on a TV screen was generated by a home computer. Only a year later, Wozniak developed the Apple II, the first. In 1984, Apple launched the first Macintosh. In 1985, something interesting happened. A power struggle developed between Jobs and then CEO John Sculley. As a result of this, Apple's board of directors removed, which in turn led to his resignation from the company the same year. After Jobs left, Apple would struggle financially for many years to come. Meanwhile, Jobs founded a new company called NeXT. Of PCs, but most importantly, developed software like NeXTSTEP and OpenStep. These would later on serve as the building blocks for Mac OS X. Because of NeXT's continued growth and Apple's continued financial failures, Apple actually purchased NeXT in 1996, and as Steve Jobs returned to Apple. Once he was back at Apple, Jobs began restructuring the company's product line, and products like the iMac G3, Mac, and most importantly the iPod were all released. The iPod was a major success, which in turn led to the company changing its name from Apple Computer Inc. In 2007, Apple released the iPhone and has since become the most valuable brand in the world. Almost every material for Apple's products has the time set to 9:41 a.m. This is because on the 9th of January 2007 at 9:41 a.m. the iPhone to the public. Nowadays, it's easy to take things for granted, especially technology without really thinking about it. For example, when was the last time you thought about the origin of rounded rectangles? In 1981, Apple came up with a new algorithm to draw ovals and circles on the Macintosh. But Steve Jobs wasn't impressed. He wanted something more. He wanted rectangles with rounded corners. Bill said it would be almost impossible and impractical, but Jobs insisted. So the very next day, Bill came up with a new algorithm that could draw rectangles with rounded corners just as fast as regular rectangles. He simply called, even though Apple wasn't the first to use this sort of primitive, they are certainly responsible for its use in more or less every user interface ever since. Apple fans can be a little extreme at times, and don't get me wrong, I like that sweet taste of a good apple every now and then, but I mean, there's a lot of other fruit out there. Why limit yourself to a tiny apple when you could have like a melon? Right? Say no to a melon, just look at that thing. Wow. Is anyone else getting weirdly turned on by this? Fans of Apple, the company, can be a little extreme. A Japanese blogger sold iPhone 6 that he started waiting outside an Apple store 7 months before the iPhone 6 was expected to be released. I say expected because at the time, the iPhone 6 hadn't even been announced yet, but he gave up pretty quickly and didn't actually sit there for the entire 7 months. Have you ever read through an entire end-user license agreement? That's a rhetorical question, and if you said yes, you're fucking lying. There is nothing in this world we agree to faster than this wall of text. But if you work for iTunes, which I absolutely did not do, at the very end, you'll find this clause. You also agree that you will not use these products for any purposes prohibited by the United States law, including without limitation the development, design, manufacture, or production of nuclear, missiles, or chemical or biological weapons. Entirely sure how that goes along with iTunes, but yeah, it's there. In case, in case you should biological weapons with your friends and stuff, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, that happens. We've all been there. When Apple first started releasing a laptop, it was always upside down, or the right side up depending on how you look at it. It was found that when a laptop had a logo facing away from the user when closed, like it is nowadays, people were on the wrong side. But somewhere along the line they realized that most people aren't actually that dumb, so the logo was reversed. With the release of the App Store in 2008, mobile gaming has become a pretty huge hit to say the least. Still, if you're a gamer, Apple products usually aren't. No offense to any Apple fans watching this, but it's quite uncommon to see the Apple logo on new game releases. However, once upon a time, Apple actually made a video game called Apple Pippin and was released in 1995 in Japan and the US. It was supposed to compete with Sega Saturn, Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. There was only one slight problem: it failed miserably. It had a price tag of $5 and only sold around 42,000 copies. But the biggest issue was that the US version only had 18 games. Rumors about the Apple logo and why the company is named Apple. For example, a popular misconception is that the logo is a representation of the forbidden fruit mentioned in the Bible. The truth, however, is far more unexceptional. Both Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak has randomly chosen because of its simplicity and as they couldn't come up with a better name. At the time, personal computers were not that common, so they wanted a name that was easy to understand and not intimidating to the average person. The logo was also chosen because of it. Beginning though, they actually used a logo featuring Isaac Newton sitting under an apple tree, but this was changed because it would be unrecognizable in small print. When they changed the logo to the current design, they considered using a logo with or without the byte, but in the end the logo with the byte was chosen to make smaller versions indistinguishable from a cherry. Everything you say to Siri, Apple analyzed and then stored for 2 years. And don't act surprised, it's all there in that wall of text you absolutely read before clicking accept, right? I mean, you did that, right? No, but seriously, in this day and age when privacy is becoming more and more a thing, sadly not that much of a surprise anymore. So next time you talk to your phone, know that it's someone's job to sit and listen to everything you say. Apple released a series of videos titled Knowledge Navigator. Let's take a quick look. It's a pretty amazing coincidence that exactly 20 years later, Apple would unveil the iPhone with more or less the same touch technology shown. That's not why I showed you this. Let's look at it again. It's quite hard to see, but the calendar in the video says September 16th. Then he asks the personal assistant for a research.
There's an article about 5 years ago, Dr. Flemson or something.
He published in the Journal of Earth Science of July 20 of 2006.
Which turns out to be from 2006. That means the video is set to take place in September 2011. Now here's the thing. Siri, Apple's actual personal assistant, October 2011. Only a month after the date they predicted.